Welcome back to the Benchwarmers podcast. You look like you could do for a spell, so come back over to the bench and spend some time with us while we uncover all things that happened in finals week 1. To start off, we saw Port Adelaide get one back on the Geelong Cats by getting over them by 16 points in the end. Josh Cuppen, I know you're a Geelong supporter, and I know that you did tip Port Adelaide in our last episode, which was correct. Tell me how you're feeling about this one.
You know what? I was correct, but I also wasn't correct. I did tip Port Adelaide to win, but I didn't expect... it wasn't a good performance, but we definitely showed up a bit more ready than we have in recent years. So, I was a bit happy. We came out and we were firing, and we had the first shot in the game, 30 seconds in, and it really... and that first possession with Tom Hawkins was really a show of what was to come, because if anyone lost us that game, it was Tom Hawkins, as much as it pains me to say it, because he's been so fantastic this year. 6 shots and he kicks 0-5. There's not much more to it, because, we had a lot of things going right for us, but Hawkins' accuracy, especially from the ones he definitely should have got, it was just really disappointing to see. And also, I felt there was no urgency. There was a point where if we scored a behind, it would have only been a 2-goal difference. Yet we were playing like the game was out of our hands and there was no game to be won. But overall, I think Port Adelaide were the better side. They definitely were the better side. But we definitely could have snatched it off them had Hawkins have kicked straight.
Yeah, I totally agree there. I think that's not the best Geelong outfit we've seen. They had Selwood and Gary Ablett and all that back and, fit and well, but I just don't think they played their best game of football, but credit where credit's due. I mean, Port Adelaide played a good game. I think if Geelong kicked straight, it's a different story, but that's sort of how football goes, Geelong at halftime, I felt, should have been up by 2 goals probably. But then in the second half, I think Port Adelaide just sort of owned it and showed why they are top of the table. And I think they should have full confidence now, knocking off Geelong, who were arguably up there as the top team throughout the home and away season. But finals is a different story. So I guess the home crowd plays a big part. But in the end, I think Port Adelaide totally deserved it, and hopefully they can get into the grand final now.
Yeah, so obviously there was a lot at stake for that game. I mean, Port Adelaide now obviously have, chalked in a spot in the preliminary final, and they get the week off, which is a huge advantage. But, Josh, your Geelong Cats are going to have to sort of, utilise that second chance now and sort of just will your way through and hopefully get there to the grand final, which we all know. We all know when you guys are at your best, you're definitely capable. So we'll see how it all unfolds. But that was that one there. After this, we had the Brisbane Lions breaking an 11-year drought and defeating the heavily favoured Richmond Tigers by 15 points on the home deck at the Gabba. James, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, look, I think throughout the game, it's pretty even. I think that, when you give away 4 50-metre penalties in the first half, I think it was 2 or maybe 3 of them resulted in goals. So, I feel like realistically they gave them a 2-goal head start. And, Brisbane played well at home, in front of their home deck with their fans. And I feel that Richmond just weren't at their best. Obviously, I think that without, Tom Lynch, I think it was pretty dumb of them to keep kicking it high into a forward line where they didn't have height. They need to do either shallow entries or, find a one-on-one target, because Harris Andrews was just picking it off all night. So I think that if they, fix up those little errors and, of course, they get Tom Lynch back this week, I think that, they'll be a much better side for it. But I think, they just need to fix on a few little errors and, I reckon they're a real contender. So,
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Just a really undisciplined Richmond jersey that night. A lot of foolish mistakes. Shai Bolton was definitely to blame, giving away two 50-metre penalties. Marion Pickett giving away the second 50 on top of the initial 50, leading to a goal right on half time. But, overall, Brisbane really just fixed up that goal kicking problem that we'd been talking about all year. This was like, we were talking about them as a premiership contender and we were disregarding them because of that inaccuracy. But they really came out and kicked through the big sticks, which showed, they seem to have control of the game throughout.
I reckon it was just a great team win from Brisbane. There wasn't many individual players that stood out. Their best player, the Brownlow favourite, Lachie Neale, had 0 possessions in the first quarter, and he got his first possession halfway through the second quarter. But after that, obviously, he ended up getting in the game, playing really well. But it was more of a team effort. Charlie Cameron kicked 3 goals. They were all just contributing to goal kicking, contributing to just the win pretty much. And I feel like Brisbane and Richmond are pretty similar in their way that they play footy. They're both matched evenly with, obviously Tom Lynch was out and Harris Andrews definitely killed the match. But they're kind of evenly matched. And I reckon the crowd 100% played a massive impact in this game. And I reckon it's going to continue to play a massive impact for Brisbane over the next couple of weeks. So they'll definitely be a scary team in the prelim.
Yeah, definitely. And we sort of judged, over in previous episodes and throughout the home and away season, we sort of, like I said, just judged Brisbane's ability to hit the scoreboard and, make the most of their opportunities, which they seem to have done this week against a quality outfit in the Richmond Tigers. I mean, they were obviously heavily favoured and, there was an 11-year drought there. But yeah, we can't take the credit away from Brisbane. I mean, Richmond were really giving everything they had, and Brisbane kept finding answers. That was the second game of week 1 of finals. Another cracking game. Both of the first 2 being within 20 points, which is awesome. But it gets even better with the St Kilda Saints almost losing the unlosable in the fourth quarter and managed to hold on to a 3-point win against Sonny's Western Bulldogs. Sonny, how did this feel for you? You guys were coming hard in the end, but just couldn't quite get there.
It shattered me, absolutely. I was devastated, I'm not going to lie. Well, it did surprise me because I had no hope after the third quarter going into the last quarter. I didn't see us coming because we didn't show up the first 3 quarters of the game. We did not show up. It looked like we were just shitting ourselves pretty much. I don't know. Every time the ball was near us, we weren't first to the ball. St Kilda always first. And all credit to St Kilda. They showed up. They did what they had to do. They probably got a bit too complacent in the last quarter, a bit too, okay, we won this game. And then the Bulldogs decided to, up the momentum, push hard. And we got to 3 points, but it obviously wasn't enough in the end. It was just devastating for me to watch. I was watching it with my dad and he left. He stopped watching in the last quarter. He gave up hope, and I was thinking about it, but I stayed watching it, and I probably shouldn't have. It just shattered me. I'm not going to lie. But the one stat that, that really tells this game is the 21 contested marks to 13 going in St Kilda's favour. They were just, the Bulldogs they were kicking the ball long and high, and St Kilda, every time they would just take massive pack marks. And all credit to Max King. Is it Max King for St Kilda? I'm pretty sure, yeah. I didn't really rate him too much coming into the season and throughout the season, but it's a good look for St Kilda's future. He was taking big, massive pack marks in the forward 50. He kicked a couple goals. He got them the start that they needed, and the Bulldogs, they just didn't show up. All credit to St Kilda. They were very prepared for the game, and that's pretty much it. Just shattered.
Yeah, I think the big thing, though, was the fact that Tim English was going up against Paddy Ryder and Rowan Marshall. Like that's a big day out for him. They bullied him earlier in the season. I think it might have been round 2 or something. But for such a young ruckman, it's hard to compete all day against two of, well, Paddy Ryder, probably one of the best ruckmen, most experienced in the competition. And that seemed to play a part in the end. Unfortunately, he's going to miss the game coming up against Richmond. But I think St Kilda stuck with the Bulldogs in the first quarter. I thought the Bulldogs came out firing quick. And but, you know, for a team that hasn't played finals for a couple of years and to dish up that performance, you know, against a quality Dogs outfit was impressive, you know, holding the like Bailey Smith and Josh Dunkley and Bontempelli and McRae to limited disposals, which is the way the Bulldogs play, you know, run the ball and all that. It was credit to St Kilda. So, and like Sonny touched on, Max King was just huge early on. And, you know, I think Caleb Daniel a couple of times in the first quarter for sure got caught out the back, you know, one-on-ones. And you can't expect someone of that height to, you know, win a one-on-one with a tall forward. So I think overall it was well played to the Saints, and hopefully they stick it to Richmond.
Yeah, definitely. And just for the viewers out there that weren't too sure about it, this one was actually an elimination final. So close for the Doggies, yet so far. I mean, this narrow loss within a goal sees their season, you know, over. I mean, they've got no chance of winning the grand final now. So I'm not trying to rub it in for Sonny. Maybe I was just a little bit, but no, look, the Doggies, you know, they went out with dignity. They could have easily got blown out of the park in that game. They could have easily ended up losing by 50 points. But, you know, credit to the Doggies as well for fighting all the way through and bringing it back to you know, a more than respectable loss. Anyway, I know James is going to love the next one. Another elimination game, you know, everything on the line. The Dirty Pies showed that they weren't around to make up the numbers by defeating the heavily favoured West Coast Eagles by a point in a thriller at Optus Stadium. This sees the West Coast Eagles eliminated from the final series. James, how did you feel about that one? Awesome win.
Yeah, it was in the end. You know, I feel like both teams were evenly matched throughout the whole game. Yeah, look, I don't really have a lot, to be honest. I was a bit surprised, to be fair. You know, obviously, big ask, us going over there and beating West Coast in front of their home crowd. I feel like both teams played well, but yeah, just happy to get the win, to be honest.
And yeah, the one thing that really won you that game was Mason Cox. I know he wasn't very consistent throughout the whole game, and I don't think he had a disposal in the second quarter, whatnot. But he needed to do one thing, and that was be a presenting option and kick a couple goals. He did all of that in 3 minutes in the first quarter, all at once, and that gave them the confidence to just go on, keep attacking. You know, they started to put more eyes on him and less on Brody Myercheck, and Brody Myercheck stepped up later in the game. There was just so much that went right for Collingwood, and, you know, as a Geelong fan coming up against you this week, I'm a bit threatened. Obviously, Mason Cox isn't the most consistent player and isn't the most fantastic player, but if he steps up, you never know.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly what Josh said. Mason Cox was the difference in the game. Even if it was in the first quarter and even if it was a 3-minute stretch, that's all they needed from him. But I want to also not discredit, you know, West Coast. They definitely played a great game, and I wasn't expecting this from Collingwood. And Liam Ryan, he's a pretty good player. I know a lot, maybe almost all of Collingwood dislike him after that, you know, incident with Maynard showing the ball. They had a bit of a one-on-one, but like you gotta give credit where credit's due. He was amazing in that game. He was fighting to the very end. Nick Nui was amazing. Like they all, I don't know. It was one of the greatest games of football I reckon I've ever watched in my lifetime. Like it was the greatest. It was the best game like all of 4 quarters of footy this year, 100%. Like that game, it was just, I don't know. There wasn't many times where it was dead. It was all electric, the whole game. Brody Mychek got them over the line in the end, and Collingwood, they might be scary in the finals.
And on the topic of Liam Ryan, right, a lot of people were saying, Liam Ryan over Tom Papley and Dan Butler for All-Australian, but he was fantastic. He was electric. And I know they didn't win the game, but that resilience after Maynard knocked him down, started to scruff with him, the confidence to just take a big mark and show him the ball, like that's the type of Mark Jacko Jackson stuff that we've been missing this century in recent history. It's what the game really wanted to see. It was fantastic. Yeah,
definitely. As the boys touched on, it was an awesome win in the end by the Collingwood Magpies. And that sees them progressing to the next week, to week 2 of the semi-finals of the final series. So now let's move on to the tipping. We have 2 games. First one is the Richmond Tigers versus the St Kilda Saints at Metricon Stadium. However, the St Kilda Saints have a few outs, a few big outs actually. They lose Ryder, Carlisle, and Long. Well, potentially Long. We'll see how he goes at the tribunal, but No, he's not in. Okay, confirmed. He's not in. 3 big outs for the Saints. Anyway, Josh, who do you think will get this one?
I'm pretty confident Richmond will win, but I would like to see the Saints go in 100% and put in a good effort. I'm pretty certain Richmond will win. Not to say St Kilda won't give a fight, not to say they won't make it a good game, but I think even if it comes to the clutch, Richmond will get over the line.
Yep. And James, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going Richmond.
Yep. Connor?
Yeah, I think Richmond will be too strong in the end. They're not just small outs for St Kilda. They're quite big. Paddy Ryder plays such a vital role in the ruck and can also play forward, very versatile option. So I think that's going to hurt him in the end.
Yep. And Sonny?
Yeah, I reckon Richmond is an almost certain win, even though they have gotten a bit complacent and maybe a bit cocky over the last week, leaving Tom Lynch out, not really caring. They could have played him last week, but I still reckon they're too strong for St Kilda.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, also the Richmond Tigers will just be too good for the St Kilda Saints. But look, wherever St Kilda finish from this point, I think it's fair to say that they've exceeded expectations for the 2020 season. So they shouldn't be ashamed of what they've been able to accomplish this year. So I'd just like to point that one out as well. The Geelong Cats. Josh, I know you'll love this one. It's a big clash between Josh and James. The Geelong Cats take on the Collingwood Magpies at the Gabba, with Selwood potentially being in after a bad finger injury. Josh, who do you think? Give me an analysis.
I believe, to my knowledge, Joel Selwood will play. I don't know if it'll affect him too much. Obviously, for someone who's actually played games on a broken finger, I know it's not easy. It's definitely affects your marking ability, affects your ability to get clean disposal. But I think Joel Selwood will overcome that because he is one of the toughest players in the AFL and maybe of all time. But Collingwood, definitely a big opponent, and I'm expecting big things from them. But historically, Geelong have really strong semi-finals. So I'm going to back my boys.
Geez, something different. Finally backing your Geelong Cats. Anyway, James, what about you?
I think it'll be a close game, but I'm obviously going to back Collingwood. Should be good.
Yep. Connor?
I think it's going to be a good game of football because Collingwood have come out and knocked off West Coast at Optus. Geelong, they have their poor history in finals. And I'd like to say Collingwood seem to perform when the pressure's on in finals. So I think I'm going to go with the Pies, to be honest.
Woo-hoo-hoo! Yeah.
Yep. James, just make sure you mute, mate. Yep. Sonny,
No.
Sonny, don't speak unless you're spoken to, mate. I haven't asked you. I'm just playing. All right, Sonny, Sonny, what about you?
Well, I reckon it comes down to both teams' forward lines. You know, it's a bit of ifs. Like, what if Mason Cox gets firing, or what if Tom Hawkins gets firing? But after seeing what they did on the weekend against West Coast, I don't see Collingwood losing this game for some reason. I don't know. I just don't see them losing this game. So I'm going to go with Collingwood.
Damn, some big calls here. Look, I think if it's a battle of, if both teams are playing at their absolute bests, it's played at the Gabba, which is where the grand final will be played. Look, I think Geelong should be able to get over the line in this one, if I'm being honest. And you know what? Whoever wins this game at the Gabba will have a big advantage. I feel they'll have a massive advantage going in to the prelim because they've actually had a go at playing on that ground, which is where the grand final will be played. So, yeah, it's going to be a huge game. It'll probably be a 50-50, but look, I think Geelong will be good enough. Will be good enough to get the win in the end. And obviously, we've got Brisbane, who are already in the preliminary final, as well as Port Adelaide. Did any of you boys have anything to touch on before we close things up?
I think even though they will be playing Richmond, or very unlikely, but also possibly St Kilda, I think Port Adelaide, with that home ground advantage and the skill that they've got and just the way they pulled them apart last time they played there, I think Port Adelaide are a lock for the grand final.
Wow, another controversial statement for not even a topic. Really, I didn't even ask you anything, and you just throwing around controversial statements as if it's nothing. But anyway, now look, I respect that. Look, it's probably a fair call. I mean, they did knock off, the Geelong Cats, who probably were one of the favourites going in. So, but look, we'll quickly touch on a little bit of the recent trade talks that have happened. I know Connor's a little bit, upset being an Essendon supporter, or maybe not. Maybe he'll have a bit to say. But with, Joe Danaher nominating the Brisbane Lions as his preferred club, and Adam Saad, choosing Carlton as his preferred club, which I'm stoked about. But Connor, what does that mean for you as an Essendon supporter?
Look, I've spoken about it to too many people now. But if you think about it, there's obviously something going wrong inside the club. I mean, Marwan, you've said it, from outside the podcast. There's a clear issue. So I think it's time for Essendon to undergo a rebuild. And this, if anyone wants to leave Essendon, just get rid of him now. Because it's just been too painful over the years that everyone just leaves consistently and you get nothing good out of it. I mean, we signed players like Townsend and Cutler, and I don't think we're going to offer them a new contract next year because they just haven't provided much to the club. So I think it's time that, Essendon look at getting rid of players who want to leave. I'm happy for Joe Danaher to leave because that'll mean that we could get 2 first-round draft picks. And Adam Saad isn't going to go for free, basically. So Carlton have to offer us a good deal. And I think we can potentially come out winners from that. And we've got good young talent that we've seen this year. Sammy Draper, McGrath, Ridley. I could go on, but I'm not going to. And I just think that, it's time that Essendon have a good hard look at themselves. New coach, Kevin Sheedy's returned back to the club as a mentor. And last time he did that, Essendon just went upwards. So I'd like to think that we need to bring in some young talent from the 2021 draft, but also get some experienced players such as, Ben Brown, if we could. There's talk of one of the Crouch brothers coming, which most likely won't happen. But I think it's, you need experienced players that are not just going to play 1 or 2 years then retire, but, you know, have experience in the AFL but play with this group for a period of time and shape the club, because at the moment the club's going nowhere. I think, if anything, it's going backwards. So, I mean, I've had a lot to say there about a very small topic, but as Marlon would say, but yeah, in the end, I think it's time for an Essendon rebuild.
Yeah, definitely. It's exactly what Carlton went through. I mean, it took us a while, but in the end, it's sort of starting to pay off. You get those young kids in who will all grow up and mature together, and that'll be your 5 to 10 years of success. It's a long wait, but it'll be worth it. Josh, I've got one for you, mate. Shaun Higgins.
Ooh.
He's open to some. I haven't finished. He's open to moving clubs, and the best suitor for him is the Geelong Cats.
Yeah, I'm happy you asked, because a lot of people had their eyes on Brad Crouch and Jack Viney coming to the Cats, and they thought over time that would be a better thing, definitely more beneficial. But, Dangerfield's in his 30s, Joel Selwood's in his 30s, Gary Ablett's retiring at the end of the year, Harry Taylor might not play next year. It's either now or never, and if it's not this year, it's next year. So we got to take a chance on Shaun Higgins playing 2 years at the club, because I would much rather 2 years of Shaun Higgins playing good football than Brad Crouch rocking up and just being a ball magnet who has no impact on the game, And Jack Viney's just penned in a long-term deal at the Demons, so I'm pretty disappointed to see that. I'd really like us to pick up Shaun Higgins, but also another one. I know you didn't ask, but for Jeremy Cameron, it's either GWS or Geelong, which I'm pretty stoked about. And I hope I don't get that wrong, but that's what I've heard. And if Geelong pull off Jezza Cameron, we've now got that centre half forward option that's not Gary Rowan. Nothing against Gary Rowan, but if Gary Rowan could play as a medium or a small forward, and let Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins do all the high contested marks, then I think we're sorted, because Gary Rowan hasn't got that high-flying, strong contested mark type, that we need.
Yeah, Geelong has been thrown around for Jeremy Cameron, but from the reports I heard, he doesn't want to leave New South Wales. And so Sydney are looking to be, a good option for him. So we'll see which way it goes, because I think he does want to leave in the end, but it's just dependent whether that's Geelong or Sydney.
Look, obviously there's another sort of big name that's been brought up previously, but Zac Williams as well, GWS halfback flanker, is looking to join the Blues as well, but he's looking for some serious midfield time, and we saw what he did last year in the preliminary final against Collingwood when they defeated them by a few points just to get into the grand final. He played a full game of midfield there, and he absolutely tore it up. So that's another one who's looking to come to to get to the Blues. And then obviously, yeah, Ben Brown as well has been told to explore his options, and I think Essendon's in the definitely in the box seat to land him. Connor, what do you reckon about that one?
Yeah, I think it's Hawthorn. No, I don't know if it's Hawthorn, but it's definitely Collingwood as well. Have looked at him, and as well as Essendon. I don't know if anyone's going to want to come to Essendon, but I think for a player that has had one bad season over probably the past 3 years, and I'm pretty sure he's been an All-Australian in recent years as well. He's a great player. You can't deny that. He had a few off games, suffered injury. I think North Melbourne have been a bit stiff on him, but I'm not complaining if he comes to Essendon, because I think he deserves to be at a club that, actually wants him. And he's had his critics, but overall, the state that the AFL's at the moment, big, tall forwards do play a huge part, and someone who can lead and mark the ball out in front is a skill that some players don't have at the moment. It's all about the small forwards, and especially to kick straight. It's been an issue this year for many clubs, and I think if anyone's able to pick him up, that'll be great for him as well, to see him back in the AFL.
Yeah, like you were saying, Connor, a strong leader, a strong mark, a strong kicker goal, and he's an absolute gut runner, especially for a forward. He clocks in the Ks. But, I think Hawthorn would be the best suitor for him because obviously I do believe he can come back to strong form, maybe 30, 40 goals season. Obviously, that's a big statement, especially coming off the year he's had. But he was in the high 40s and 50s in the previous 2 years, if I'm not incorrect. And I think Hawthorn really lacking that forward line. They've got like Mitchell Lewis and players like that who are in a really young team. And Ben Brown is still very early in his career. So I reckon Hawthorn would be the best suitor for him.
Yep. Very valid points there. And the last one, not as established of a player in the AFL, but young Jackson Hatley from the GWS Giants has informed GWS of his desires to join the Adelaide Crows. Now, I have huge raps on Jackson Hatley. I've always rated him since he came through. He's a young bull, and he's going to end up being an absolute superstar of the competition. So that'll be a massive get for the Adelaide Crows if they manage to get him across. But yeah, anyway, that sort of concludes today's episode. Make sure you guys stay tuned, throughout the week. Keep on top of the Instagram page to know when, what's going on, what we're posting.
Surprise coming up.
What was that? Sorry?
Got a surprise coming up. Got something.
Give us a little wink, Josh. Don't do it again.
Bro, you anticipated that. That was crazy.
All right. Anyway, viewers, make sure you stay tuned because we got a big week. Week number 2 of finals coming up. It's the semi-finals, and we can't wait to unveil it all to you in the next episode. Thank you guys for watching, and see you.